Hi, I'm Tamworth Grice. Welcome to my channel, the Tamworth Grice Files. This will be cases that are spooky, strange, macabre, supernatural, and just plain weird. And in each instance, I have a personal connection to the story. So be sure to stick around to the end to hear about my personal encounter, actually 2 encounters, with D.B. Cooper. But before I go any farther, I want to say I appreciate you, I love you for watching my video. So please hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons. Also, I hope you'll leave a comment at the end and tell your friends about my new channel. Your support will really mean the world to me. Today I'm talking about the mysterious skyjacker D.B. Cooper and his disappearance, which stumped the FBI for decades, so much so that the Bureau eventually gave up and closed the case. And as I said, I have a personal connection. I think I actually knew not 1, but 2 men who might have been D.B. Cooper. So hang around to hear about that. Let's begin. The day before Thanksgiving in 1971, a man named Dan Cooper bought a ticket on Northwest Airlines to fly between Portland and Seattle. The Boeing 727 was only about 1/3 full, and he sat in the last row. After the plane took off, and this is really funny to me, he passed a note to the flight attendant. Being a young and attractive woman, she'd probably had men pass notes to her all the time, so she just put it away instead of reading it. He then motioned to her and said he had a bomb. He opened a briefcase and showed her what looked like sticks of dynamite and wires. She said he was calm, quiet, and mild-mannered throughout the incident. He demanded that the captain let everybody off the plane and refuel when it reached its next destination. He also demanded 4 parachutes and $200,000 in unmarked bills. When the plane was in the air, he told the pilot to fly toward Mexico City at a low altitude so that the back staircase could be lowered and he could jump out. Because the pilot chose the route, most people think there was not an accomplice waiting on the ground. Cooper jumped from the plane, and then he disappeared forever. Years later, some of the cash, about $6,000, washed up on a riverbank, but it did not lead authorities to the hijacker, and no one knows what happened to the rest of the $200,000. By the way, the man never called himself D.B. Cooper. He bought the ticket under the name Dan Cooper, but a journalist made a mistake, and so he has gone down in infamy as D.B. Some people, including FBI agent Larry Carr, theorize Cooper died in the jump, but his body was never found, so others think he lived. There's lots of information about this case on the internet if you want to find out more, but now let me tell you about my personal connection. 25 years ago, I lived in the small town of Bisbee, Arizona. It's extremely close to Mexico. In fact, I could see Mexico from my bedroom window. Because of the proximity to Mexico, Bisbee would be the perfect place for someone to hide out if they were on the run from the law. One night, I was in a restaurant with a friend of mine who nodded his head toward the bar and said the old guy standing there drinking was D.B. Cooper, the famous hijacker. The man was about the right age. At that time, he would have been about 70, the right height. Witnesses said the man was about 6 feet tall, and the right weight. Witnesses said the man was sturdily built. And I later saw him around town and even said hello and exchanged pleasantries. Now, I'm not saying this guy was D.B. Cooper. I'm just telling you what I observed and what I was told. Today, 25 years later, that man and D.B. Cooper, if they were not one and the same, would be 95 years old. So if they are still alive, which they are probably not, they're dead, obviously. So I also had another encounter with a second possible D.B. Cooper. My second encounter was with a guy, I'll call him Greg, who was a much older graduate student at the Midwestern University that I attended. He was a dead ringer for the composite sketch, but he was the wrong height, being only about 5'8", the wrong build, being very slight, and the wrong age. He would have been 25 and not 40 when the hijacking took place. Years later, after seeing a show about the case and the FBI's composite sketch, I realized Greg resembled it, and I mean strongly resembled it. I began asking him if he were D.B. Cooper. He would always laugh, almost hysterically and maniacally, without giving an answer. Interestingly, Greg was from a poor family, but somehow had the money to go to both college and graduate school. And a friend of mine told me that in 1972, just 1 year after the hijacking, he somehow had the money to buy a new sports car. Where did he get that money? Moreover, he was extremely intelligent, exactly the type who could have been a criminal mastermind. Greg died last year, and I will never know if he was in fact the hijacker D.B. Cooper. So, there it is. What do you think? Could one of the two men I knew have been D.B. Cooper? Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please subscribe, like, sign up for notifications, and spread the word about this channel. Also, let me know in the comments if there are other cases you want me to explore. As I said before, I love and appreciate you all for watching, and I hope you'll return to view the next video in the Tamworth Grice Files. Bye!